Welcome, welcome, welcome all to the first episode of Turin Giants Presents The Scoop, your best source to cut through all of the noise regarding Juventus transfer rumors and give you a little window into what's really happening behind the scenes. My name is Zach, and I'm joined here by Frederic. And let's just cut to the chase, all right? Why should anybody listen to us about transfers?
Well, hello everyone. First of all, I'd like to say I'm particularly happy because I know some people within the mechanics of Juventus, the team as a group, and they often divulge information to me. Uh, but I have to guarantee their anonymity, of course. So that's what I'm going to do. And it's just something to our listeners and our viewers to give them a bit of a heads up, because if you look at what's happening social media wise, and it's a lot of white noise, and we trying to cut through the bullshit, I think. So happy to do that for you.
And anyone who listens to the Turn Giants podcast regularly knows that we've been benefiting from these insights for the majority of the season. So it's an absolute pleasure to have Frederic here. And it is our goal to, again, like he says, give you some truth in amongst all the noise. Well, this is how these episodes will work. We're basically going to go down the list of all the hot names that are buzzing about around Juventus and give it a temperature from red hot to ice cold with regards to the likelihood that these deals are ultimately completed. We're going to focus today on this predominantly on the management side, but talk a little bit about players, definitely the forwards, as well as our loanees, what the likelihood is for them. So if I'm able to successfully share my screen on this, we will jump into it. Alrighty. Okay, we should be sharing our screen. We're starting with the front office. And I know you said something the other day, Frederic, and I want us to echo it here, that Elkan kind of has a strategy he's putting in place, doesn't he?
Yeah, Alcan, and this goes back through March, April, had about enough of all the things we are doing management wise, and he saw that it didn't work out. So he assessed the situation and took charge, and wants to divide the team, the management team, into four basic pillars, with the team being the fourth one. Then a good relationship between the technical and the football side of things, and then really management overseeing those different pillars, which will be Damien Comoli, which you can mark as red hot, all but done. Damien Comoli from Toulouse should arrive next week in Turin, is also working behind closed doors already, but it should be official next week. So I'm excited to see what he'll bring to the table, because it's a big gamble. He's a data-driven manager, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, I guess.
Now, you said he's starting next week, but we have him marked down as a chief executive officer. But how's that supposed to work with Scanavino?
Reports suggest that Scanavino should leave somewhere in between August and September as the CEO, or whatever his job title officially is now, and which will be then brought forward by Comoli. So he'll be getting some sort of internship and working closely with Scanavino until the end of his term, is what I heard.
All right, let's move to technical director. We got two names here, and one name that should be familiar to Juventino, Matteo Tognozzi, and Diego Lopez. What's the deal with them?
They're both in for the running as technical director, but Alcon wants somebody on the sporting side as well, and that's where Diego Lopez comes into play. Tognozzi was a former scout of Juventus, head of scouting, if I'm not mistaken, and I doubt that he will be making his return in the same function. So it will be either one of those two, or those two collaborating together to basically fill up the sporting side as Direttore Sportivi.
So from Tognozzi, what temperature do you give him?
I'd give Tognozzi a warm. I would give it a red hot, but it's been cooled off for the last past couple of days because all of the drama and the whole re-management thing, and basically it's Komoli who has to give his final say about the appointment, whether of Tognozzi.
And then
That's why
Lopez, what
Diego.
temperature?
Yeah, sorry, I'd give him room temperature because he's one of the favorites for Komoli to assess a role. He's also very, let's say, he has this data driven aspect about him that Kamoli likes. So it's in between those two, or the both of them together.
Okay, interesting. But Tognozzi, if it is either or, Tognozzi's still got the slight lead, it seems.
Yeah,
Um, let's talk VP and a name we all love, Giorgio Chiellini.
yeah. Giorgio Chiellini, in my book, hot. Not just as VP because it remains a bit unclear about what his role will be eventually, but it's clear to see that Elkan has had numerous conversations with him, day-to-day chats with him. So he very much values Chiellini as somebody within front office. So I don't suspect him for a role just as a team manager. I highly doubt that he will be given a smaller role. I think he'll have a very, very high role up in the ranks. So my sources lead me to believe that it'll be vice president or the responsibilities of a vice president.
Awesome. Love to see him involved. All right, let's move on from the front office to the coach's chair. Now, the first name on our list, Antonio Conte, seemingly was going to be our next coach, but that has obviously changed. And though nothing's been officially announced, what temperature do you give Antonio Conte?
Even though it's not official, I'd say ice cold. And if I may, I'd also like to elaborate a bit on that point.
Mhm.
Antonio Conte gave his word to Chiellini and Alcon a couple of months ago to join Juventus. It was all but done. But at the last moment, some of the last talks that they had, it seems that Chiellini, excuse me, Conte also wanted to say about the front office and how that's going to be filled in. Alcon did not really appreciate that. And if you add that to the fact that Napoli gave him a big pay raise and an extension and some guarantees transfer wise, I think Antonio Conte chose to broke his word and is all but done for Napoli.
So then the question is, does our current coach, Igor Tudor, stay?
That's a big if because I know for a fact that Tudor is a bit, how shall I put it, morally down to the ground because he sees, hears, and reads the rumors about
Mhm.
Conte or another coach coming, and he feels like fifth wheel at this point. So I don't know what he's going to do. Fact of the matter is, if he doesn't resign and Juventus choose to replace him, he'll get €1 million in bonus. And I strongly believe that that will happen if Comoli finds a decent coach prior to the World Cup, which will be
So,
difficult.
but as we stand here today, what's the temperature in the room?
It is what you say it is. It's room temperature for me for Tudor.
The temperature in the room is room temperature. All
Yeah.
righty. All right. Next name on the list, a name heavily linked with Roma, but recent reports said he might have been talking with Juventus, Gianpiero Gasparini. What's the temperature in the room there?
Ice cold. The deal with Roma will probably be official soon. And also, if I can elaborate on that, Juventus didn't have extensive talks with him or whatever. There's a lot of bullshit floating around. They called him. He was on the list. He said he already gave his word to Ranieri and Roma and wanted to pursue that, which, in all honesty, is very good for him. But there were no, like, you read a lot of things, but that's nonsense. So yeah.
Okay, let's go then to a name that's been tossed around ever since the Mota out rumors started in Roberto Mancini. What's the temperature there?
Uh, for me, it's room temperature because Mancini was somebody at the top of the list of when Giuntoli had command over the Sporting. events at Juventus. But as we know, Giuntoli is all but left. So I expect Mancini to go down a peg or 5 or 6.
So that one might cool off as the days pass.
Yeah,
Is what
exactly.
you're saying? Okay, all right. Well, let's move on to the a couple rumors or a few rumors of Spanish managers in England. First one, Bournemouth coach Andoni Iraola.
Warm. He's one of the favorites for Comoli. Like I said, Comoli very data driven and appreciates what Iraola has done at Bournemouth this season and also in Spain last seasons. I don't know if talks have been held already, but there's certainly something that we need to keep an eye out for.
All right, let's go to a name that you mentioned actually in our as an ideal coach for you in our season recap episode, Turn Giants episode 300 part 1, and Unai Emery. What's the temperature there?
The temperature for Emery is room temperature at the moment. And why is it room temperature? I think everybody within Juventus, even though there's not a set front office yet, is very convinced by the talents that Emery has. Fact of the matter is, he just extended his contract, which will make it very difficult for him to leave Birmingham at this point, I sadly must say.
All right, let's round it out. Marco Silva, who's, I believe, at Fulham.
Yes, coach of Fulham, and basically the same story as with Iraola. Also, the same vision that Iraola carries out, and the same vision that concedes well with the one that Comoli has. So I put him in warm as well.
All righty. So we're moving pretty quickly through this. We've done front office, we've done coaches. Now we're moving to forwards. Frequent listeners to Turn Giants know that Vlahovic is not really been our favorite player this year, and I think all reports indicate that he will be leaving. So, what is the temperature for Dusan Vlahovic staying?
The temperature for Dusan staying is very cold.
How cold?
Ice cold.
How cold?
Ice cold. Ice cold. But another thing there regarding players, because our front management as our front office has not been set up properly, or at least not the way that we want it to be, and it's not all in effect. It's very, very difficult to know what we can expect, because everything that we were negotiating about, every player, whether it being a loanee or players coming back from loans or permanent transfer or whatever, have just been put on pause, because the main priority for Alcan now is front office and getting that structure in before we proceed to break it down to player wise.
So what you're saying is essentially we're not going to be seeing very many red hots on this list because of that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's jump into it anyways. I mean, every single one of the forwards on our screen here, we're gonna go through each of them, has been linked with Juventus, so we got to address it based on what you've heard from your sources within the organization. Victor Osimhen is first up. What's the temperature there?
He went cold from being red hot, because Osimhen was a name at the top of Giuntoli's list. There were meetings that took place, and it was number one priority transfer for us. But since Giuntoli left and everything's been put on pause, I don't know. I think they have somebody else in mind at this point.
And I guess the Napoli connection made a lot of sense between Osimhen and Giuntoli. All right, well, let's see. Another name on the list that I think has a lot of people excited, mostly because of his proficient, maybe ungodly goal scoring at the professional level this last year, is Victor Gyökeres. What's the temperature?
Hot. Not red hot, but hot, because there have been some talks. Yeah. I think there have been 2 talks with the people surrounding Gyökeres, and Gyökeres made it clear that Juventus is a destination that he would like. But as in all things, it all comes down to the money. The transfer fee has a clause. We know that we can afford the clause, but then it remains to be seen how much does he want to earn, given all the financial things that happen in Italy regarding taxes and stuff like that. So But for now, at this point, he's one to keep an eye out for.
And I know that, it actually seems he's been linked with every big team, but there's really been very little movement, it seems, on that front. So maybe it's a player we can snipe from other teams. How about another player that has been linked with like everybody? Jonathan David. What's the temperature?
It's room temperature at this point. We were ahead in the race, as we were with Gyökeres. We had several meetings with Jonathan David and his manager as well. But ever since that, Conte said that he remains at Napoli, Napoli took advantage of that. Had some talks with him as well, and it's settled down a notch.
All right, this was a name that was kind of surprising to me and maybe gave some folks PTSD from Atalanta transfers, but Matteo Retegui.
It's cold at this point. It would have been. I think it would have been hard if Gasparini joined us.
Mhm.
But at this point, I think it's cold, given the fact that if you buy a player from Atalanta at this stage, you need to fork out a lot of money, and I don't hope that our front office doesn't want to spend that much on another Atalanta player.
Well, let's talk about a former Atalanta player, current EPL pariah in Rasmus Højlund.
Again, the same story as with Retegui. Cold. Why? Because he doesn't offer the goal scoring potential that we need in the team right now. And also because he was somebody that was high up on Giuntoli's list.
Mm.
And given the fact that the chef has left the kitchen, I think it's safe to say that our interest in Højlund has declined as well.
All right, let's round out our sort of priority transfers and talk about a couple loanies. Okay, we got Kalulu, Kolomwani, Vega, and Conceição. The question is, are they staying? Let's start with Pierre Kalulu. What's the temperature on Kalulu staying?
Red hot. He's very, very happy at Juventus. I think I saw an interview with him last night as well, and he said, "My work here is not done. I want to compete. I want to win, and I want to do everything in my power to help Juventus achieve that." So he's not somebody that is. But once again, everything can happen. I mean, it might be that we sign him on a definitive deal, and then get an offer for 40 million. You never know.
Yeah, but at least, I mean, in order for that to happen, we would have to exercise the clause, which you're saying is red hot.
Yeah.
Now the next two on the list, neither of them have buy clauses. So what's the temperature for Kolomwani staying?
For Kolomwani, it's hot. He wants to stay. He wants to prove himself, but also the fact, I think Chiellini had some talks with PSG because they want to renew his contract for a whole year, starting from the World Cup.
Who's they? PSG or Juventus?
Juventus.
Okay.
Juventus. PSG want to outright sell him. So we're looking to see if we can squeeze in another loan year and add that as a sort of a discount if we should buy him or not. But Juventus made it very clear they want the option to buy and not the obligation. But once again, let's see what Camoli decides.
Well, then, same question about Vega. Where do we stand on him?
Room temperature, because our coach, our ex-Juventino, Enzo Maresca, really wants to try him out in London. Vega is not that keen on that idea, wants to stay in Turin. I think he'll be the first player, along with Muani, when talks will be picked up after our front office is a bit settled in, because I think these two are the priorities of the loanees that we have in order to start the World Cup efficiently as well.
All right, let's end with maybe the most polarizing player on our whole team this year. Some people love him, some people hate him. Chico Conceição. What's the temperature?
Unfortunately, it's a bit cold, partly due to financial reasons. Juventus asked for to extend his loan option till after the World Cup. And our Portuguese friends declined and said, "No, you want him, you buy him like we agreed. The price is this. We can give you a little discount, but apart from that, we can't do anything." And once again, because the front office is not settled in yet, it's a very difficult decision to make because it involves a lot of money. And not having a definitive coach yet makes matters even worse in order for us to make a sound and resolute decision about Chico.
Alrighty, well, we hit the 20-minute mark. We've gone through the high priority transfers. There's obviously a lot more to discuss moving forward. Some of them being some contract extension talks, as well as all of the folks that we've loaned out who may or may not be coming back. Stay tuned to future episodes of The Scoop to get more information on what we talked about today, as well as other position players and the aforementioned contracts and loan players. But for now, we're going to let you go. We really appreciate you, Frederic, sharing your inside knowledge with us, and all the listeners for tuning into our first episode of The Scoop. We appreciate all of you. Please share your opinions on these players and these moves in the front office on our Instagram page at Turin Giants. And in the meantime, until we speak again, Forza Juve.